My name is Chris Cook. I'm an artist born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I work with photography medium, and I operate in the darkroom as well too. These Black Lives Matter photographs was taken last year during 2020. This is right after the fact where people was forced to quarantine. Different places where these images was captured was in Brooklyn, it was in Harlem. It was places that I know friends and family live in, and I wanted to capture different areas in between. I also was able to travel to DC and captured some things right near the Capitol as well too. I think the motivation for me to document these photos during the protest is because I thought of it as my history that I needed to archive. A lot of my photography practice is based on archiving and capturing my own generation. So I felt that when once the protest was becoming more frequently, I decided to just go out and capture my own history. I did not know what to do, but originally at first, but I knew that with a camera, I could use that as a weapon and showcase ideally what's happening to people who are not there. The participants for the Black Lives Matter protests seemed like it was for two different sides. One side is protesters of Black Lives Matter, and other side is protesters of Blue Lives Matter. But I could also add that there was probably more than just two sides. There was sides for, I believe, for police. There was a side where people are just there to just take advantage of the situation. So there was multiple sides that took place in that scene, like during the protests. But I stick with the side where I know that they're out for a reason. They want to get their voice heard, and that's what I choose to document the most when I went to these protests. I wanted people to see things as from the organizers' point of view. And I feel like with a lot of these protests and marches that was organized, a lot of people tend to just photograph the front lines. But I wanted people to see how things is set properly with the team and the people who organize it. I have a few friends that participated in these marches and protests, and just hearing what they do, I felt I wanted to just shed light to exactly how they put things together. Before I started documenting Black Lives Matter, I wasn't too sure what was going on at first. I was definitely worried at that time, definitely where COVID was going on. It was something that I was hesitant to participate as well too. And what made me just go out was I just kind of imagined like, hey, if I was going to pass away, then I'd rather do it in something I love and something I really believe in. So afterwards, after the first day of protests and saw everything that went on, it did felt like a war. And that honestly gave motivation that what I seen compared to what news broadcasts, it shows that I need to be there. So it gave me motivation to really go out there day by day and photograph what I can, because I do feel that if I don't document my own history, then who will? The law enforcement was definitely reluctant throughout the whole protest. You see different sides of how law enforcement address to certain situations. The first day, I they definitely did not have things set in stone or planned accordingly, and it was just a chaos. So there was a lot of times there definitely have been chaos. There have been times where I do feel like it was a lot more organized, but I do feel like depends on the person that's in the uniform. Uh, some of them was able to just hear people out. Others did not want to do that. They just wanted people to just do what they say, and of course that caused a few problems. But majority of that was they play a part in a role. Yes, they did, but some of the things they were able to do didn't. I think for the most part, they were just there just to make sure that they're protecting buildings or things that have some type of value. I guess that if that makes sense. On one of the photos, it was in Wall Street, and I forgot the name of the statue, but I guess it's the Raging Bull, and they're protecting the Raging Bull. I doubt any protesters wanted to like really, mess with it, especially it's big, it's heavy, it's Bronx, but it just kind of shows that they're there for a reason, but a lot of those reasons is not to protect people, it's to protect certain assets. The last protest was when crossing over the Manhattan Bridge. I decided to end off there because one of my first protests was crossing over the Manhattan Bridge in the beginning. So I felt like it was just parallel with each other in that case. It was also one of the last protests I noticed one of my friends participated. He was one of the bikers that was helping guide people throughout. And I thought that was a good way to end it off because throughout the time and the days that go within each march and protest, I did notice that it was becoming a lot less, and I also noticed it was getting a lot colder, and people, it was around that time, it was still technically COVID, but it was things opened up, so things, there was a lot of people that were slowly getting distracted by different things in between. But I decided to end off there because it's really have all the elements that I thought I went out to achieve, which is I wanted to document friends, I wanted to document the area, and I wanted to document just how the movement portrayed. And I think with that protest, I really started people that was about it beforehand and even afterwards. When I look at these photographs a couple months back, it seemed unreal. I say unreal because that this was only just a couple months ago, and it feels like years passed by. So I just try to grasp that I lived through like a historical moment and was very fortunate to capture a part of it, a part of history, that this is something I could pass down to the next generation. I do feel very lucky that I took the chance to go out there and capture this. Some people weren't able to do that, so I feel very fortunate that I had the ability to just go out and document as much as possible. I do feel that looking through these photos as well too, I noticed like certain things I didn't notice before. Now, and this could be like little hidden elements or just things I didn't really recognize what I captured, but now I did after looking through the images now. And I think one thing that I found that was interesting, even though when documenting in between, there's always like images that just show just basic life. Like one of the images during the time when I looked through all the images, it was definitely Father's Day. So yes, I was going out to protest, but then when I'm just traveling A and B, I see like a great moment and I capture that too. So I think that's going to be, I found that so interesting when doing the document, because even though my main focus was Black Lives Matter, it was still also featuring other people around the way as well too. So it's something which I feel like even months later, or years, I'm always going to keep recognizing certain things with the images. And I feel that at the end of the day, this is just part of my archive and happy to share with others. This piece is Am I Next? This one features son and his father and the sign which say, my name is Mason, am I next? This is very important to me, mainly because with it's showcase of like how kids are looking at this during 2020, like all the protests and whatnot that's going on. I felt I was always happy to see kids like in these marches or protesters, because it gives them just a little understanding of like how the world is and what and how they're representing within that world as well too. So just seeing him with the sign, he does understand exactly who he is, what some people think about him, and that simple question: am I next to be killed? During law enforcement, is he next to be the next hashtag or whatnot? So I thought that was very important. It's a simple message, but it just kind of just shows that, if he's able to understand that as a young age, what will his future be afterwards? For this next piece, this is called Verses. This is during Occupy City Hall, and this is during one of the mornings where you see the struggle between police and protesters. This was quite interesting to take, because if you look through the middle, you see like a splitting image between a barrier between both of them, and just to see their body language between both of them, it seemed like they both don't want to be there, but being forced to do what they believe in. This is for one of my next pieces. It's called Irony. This is one of my favorite pieces, mainly because you have, in picture, a black cop, and you have one of the protesters, which is a white person, which is giving him the middle finger. You see a USA flag at the behind him as well too, and it just kind of just shows just what a black cop is thinking while being at these protests. And I guarantee there's a lot of things he's probably thinking right now. So it just shows how ironic it is just to be a black cop in this type of situation. And it's one of the pieces where there's an art piece that I love a lot that G. Michael Basquiat made. It's called The Irony of a Black Police Officer, and this is kind of like adds value to that of what I've seen when going to Black Lives Matter protests, and kind of just see what's in the mind of a black cop. This next piece is Silence is Violence. This is taken at the beginning of when I started documenting Black Lives Matter. Behind the person, you see a burning cop van, and with the person holding the sign, Silence is Violence, it just kind of add everything together to seeing how the police is interacting with the protesters. And for a lot of things, I think we just shows that people were fed up, they had enough, and it's just too many like deaths. And this is one of the ways that people were able to retaliate back. And it definitely had police struck for quite a while. But regarding Silence and Violence, is that, when we see how law enforcement is deal with black people in general, it's always something that's swept underneath the rug. So with beginning of this protest, it just shows that how, no, we're not gonna let you just sweep it underneath the rug. We gonna let people know, and we gonna let our voice be heard.